There's something I want to say to you, Jigs, about your girl. Only I can't seem to open up and spit it out just now. My tongue's been swamped for a big swollen worm. A worm, you know that Bible story about the whale swallowing the guy? Well, in this story I swallow the whale, the one dangling off your rod. Someone picked the right lure, old buddy. Someone who knew I go for the big flashy ones, the ones that wiggle through the water in a low-cut dress, the ones that jab hard and tear out your guts when you finally clamp on. Policeman's a person in your neighborhood, as the song goes, and you certainly lived in mine, Lieutenant Jigs, on the same side of the street, if not in the same yard, swapping info, tips, and stoolies, the way other guys swap lawnmowers and hedge clippers. You think by now I'd have learned to watch my back a little better, but who are you going to trust if you can't trust a neighbor? Would you listen to me? Maybe it's just as well you can't hear me, Jigs. I swallowed a whale, all right. The Big Tuna. Hook, line, and sinker.
Shadows fall and lanterns flicker through my iron banister. Paranoid delusions start to call. When dark rain falls, plague eats the sicker like a virus, hot and bitter. The insatiable always seem to fall. I found a lover, carries knives and swords and power, chains my heart and soul against a wall. When nighttime falls.
Mind if I peek?
Go ahead.
Looking at dead people always made me want to smoke. A bad habit for a guy in my profession. What with the health risks and all.
Name's Angelo Catoli. Shot in the gut.
Catoli. I knew the name. Medium speed mobster. No big loss.
What's with the money, I wonder?
Whoever did this didn't give a damn about the guy's money. To show it was personal.
Jigs up.
Lieutenant Jigs now.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll take it from here.
Whole thing seems a bit too cut and dry, if you ask me. Just a bit too pat.
Appreciate your observations, Nick. Don't trip over the stiff on your way out.
I remember thinking you strange that night, Jigs. We'd been partners on the force way back. Built the kind of loyalty that dies hard. You usually didn't mind me giving a poke and a prod, even if the rest of your cop buddies would have given their eye teeth to see my keister run up the flagpole. But then power will do that to the guy. I waved it off and went for a drink. Mind if I trade you? She was a beaut, all right, Jigs. Legs like a real thoroughbred. Win, place, and show, all on one card. And this birthmark above her right breast. I was jealous of that little freckle. Jealous because it couldn't know how lucky it was, all snug, hanging there. Or how hard I'd be willing to work to be just where it's at now.
My husband.
It was the carcass I'd just left downtown. Angelo Catoli, the small-time player, now big-time stiff. You don't waste any time, Mrs. Catoli. She said to call her Irene, that she'd worked busting tables at Catoli's joint, aptly named the Fat Cat. With those legs, she was moved to the stage in no time, headlining as the Big Meow, until she caught the attention of the cat himself, and got sweet on the kind of milk that flowed from its silk-lined pockets. Her husband's death didn't seem to faze her, Mademoiselle Poker Face. Knowing that as she stood here in my office, looking out my window, her old man was already just paperwork, probably stained with peanut butter from some intern's midnight snack. I wouldn't be seeing any tears from this lady, real or otherwise. She was a brick. She told me a lot of things as we stood staring out that window, down towards the dark city which hid her husband's killer. She said she'd come my way because her husband was the kind of guy with connections. Connections which made him enemies with the city's finest. and maybe they wouldn't try too hard to find out who had gone to the trouble of adding a few ounces of lead to his already hefty punch. The question she wanted me to answer wasn't why, it was who, and she had plenty of cash to see me through the equation. Thing was, as far as booty went, it stood about 5 feet 10 and about an inch away, smelling even better than molasses and honey. Only a telephone number and a sweet smell stopped me from fearing the whole thing had been a dream, and I lay in bed a long time, just floating on the reality of that dream, gradually realizing that I would do anything this woman asked of me. I would jump off that bridge for her and smile dreamily all the way down to the bottom. She was a brick, all right, but she was a brick wrapped in a feather pillow. She was my midnight angel. Laying in bed all day wasn't what I considered a waste. Besides, Jigs, you know I did my best work at night, and here in this neighborhood. This was where I came to drink and to think. Butcher 2 birds with 1 bob. This was the vault. Airtight and impenetrable to all that's fair and ordinary and logical. A place where nothing gets in and nothing gets out, not even time. Today was a Wednesday, but you'd never know it from looking. In the vault, every night was the last night. A cause for excess and celebration. For shame and regret. Home away from home. Out of 100 bars in the vault, this was my spot. Why? Why not? The Copa. I called it the Coppa, if you know what I mean.
Every star shine bright is the same. In Paris or in Cairo, it's all the same. And I could be alone in a far-off land, but that would create castles only made insane. It all means nothing unless I live by your side.
Buy me a drink.
Why?
One. Get out of there.
It's sinister the way life tempts me to death sensuality, making all that now just seems so small.
I put the word out without getting off my bar stool, tapping out the right codes with the shot glasses and new bills, all the time throwing back waterlogged scotch like it was Cracker Jack, ending up tighter than an Irishman at a wine tasting convention, but still none the wiser. I was getting the clam from all my usual guys. Either they really knew nothing, or they were scared of something bigger than me or my charity. The lowbrow wasn't working. It was time to pay a visit to the fat cat. Poor fat cat. Guess no one told him he was supposed to have 8 more lives. Something about her made me curious. Maybe it was the mark on her breast, which got me thinking about Irene. It seemed she had something to hide, so I followed her. Waiting for me, sugar? There's something special about you, honey, and that something made me follow you all the way from the fat cat.
Not here. Let's go somewhere we could talk, Nick.
Her name was Tina something or other. And to tell you the truth, I couldn't remember where exactly I knew her from. My long-term memory hadn't been too long-term lately, on account of the booze. Not that she was a dog or anything. Sort of the perky college type. Still, with Irene clear in my head and sweet in my nose, no woman could compete. Irene. I still had some answers to get to.
How did you find out I work at the Fat Cat?
You shouldn't be asking a detective a question like that.
You're right.
I played up to her a little, returning her coyness and pouring just a touch of reverence into the mix. Then when I thought she was good and ready, I casually mentioned Irene. Her reaction caught me way off guard. As far as she was concerned, Irene was a notorious opportunist, letting nothing stand in the way of her target, flirting shamelessly with members of the Latin Quartet. She assured me all the dancers hated her and it was just peachy with them when Irene had graduated from headliner to house pet. Though, she added, it was no secret around the Fat Cat that the only thing ever turned on in the Catoli house was the television set. I fled home racing the dawn, fearing the clarity of the picture it would paint me. The picture it always painted. Maybe I was missing something. Was I wrong about Irene? But I had to remember who I'd been talking to back there at the cafe. Women are competitive, and Tina was a fellow dancer who'd seen Irene flash by her like a comet. She'd probably seen the twinkle in my eye and known my curiosity was anything but off the cuff. I was already caught, Jakes. The facts were being handed to me as fresh and creamy as the apple pie a la mode I'd eaten back in the cafe. But I was too hooked to see it. I just kept thinking about that little birthmark in those wide, staring eyes, sure that anything so beautiful had to be more than an inch deep. There wasn't enough room in my head for so much pain and so many questions, and since I couldn't get rid of the pain, I got rid of the questions. Like death and the tax man, dawn is a sure bet. And when I finally gave into it and got out from under my blanket, I saw I was working backwards, piling up the questions but missing all the answers. I spent most of the day chasing my own tail. I couldn't see why anyone would want to protect a no-good shyster like Angela Catoli. No one was talking, so I went right to the source. Only she wasn't around. Just great. No leads, no client. I was rained out. This is about where you came in, Jakes, remember? I gave up on Irene and got on the horn to you, asking you to meet me at the Steak and Chops. I was a little desperate.
Anything else, sir? Next.
Jigs up.
What's in your mind, Nick? I hope you called me for something better than kiss and tell.
I started off slow with you, playing pretty much the same game I'd played with Tina the night before, trying to sound casual when I asked how you were coming along on the Catoli case. You were another clam, and to tell you the truth, my feelings were hurt. Down inside, where it counts, I felt sick and hollow, a stirring I hadn't had in a long while. It was fear. Fear that maybe after all those years, the meter had run out on our friendship. Fear that maybe my bad deeds had finally made vague history of my good ones. So I dropped all design and told you the rest. I told you her name. I guess I'd asked you there for a little kiss and tell after all. Like with Tina, I wasn't ready for your reaction. This obviously wasn't my booth.
Stay away from her, Nick.
That sunk it. Time to skip to the chase. To Irene, Halloween at the Fat Cat. 1. To my dearest Irene, love always 1. Halloween at the Fat Cat.
Irene? Irene?
Jigs up.
Told you to stay away, Nick. Didn't I tell you?
No need to get sore, old buddy. We're on the same side, remember? Looks like the bird's getting ready to fly the coop.
It's not so simple, Nick. Sorry you can't. Sit down.
I wanted to tell you right then that everything was okay. That it seemed my midnight angel was really a midnight murderess. that she must have hired me just for appearances and was planning an extended vacation with the Don Juan in the photo. But I could tell I didn't have all the pieces. As I'd said in the beginning, it was just a little too pat.
Well, look who's here. Hi, Jigsy. Our private eye. Sorry, Jigsy, you'll have to kill him. I didn't think he'd be able to get out of bed, let alone get this far. Here's our settlement. And our tickets to a new life. Just get this over with while I slip into something a little more comfortable.
Hold on, Jigs. There's something I want to...
He dead?
Just about.
There's just enough time for one glass before our plane leaves.
All right.
Full circle, old buddy. Full circle. Funny, you shot me. Clean and simple. But somehow I still want to warn you. Explain to you. The way things really are. You might almost mistake me for the religious type. I suppose, if anything, now's the time to consider going that way. There's something I want to tell you, Jigs, about your girl. Only I can't seem to open.
Someone's here. Juan! What are you doing here?
Sorry, Irene. Slight change of plans. The angels have fallen. Now it's our time to fly.
Things that I'm doing are not just a way to keep on pursuing. You stop leaving just for it ruin. I see myself in different lights. I'm making love and initiating fights, and I wonder, Lord, I wonder. Well, I ain't got love, but that's just fine. 'Cause all I want is a little bit of time. Sweet talk and a glass of wine, and my love in my arms tonight.